Exactly. Hey, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Super Heru Radio. Moonday nights. I am your host, Heru the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host, Selena, the Empress of 10,000 Years. I'm Maud, the Prince of Tears. Maud, the Prince of Tears, Saga, my brothers, you, all my supporters, all my haters. Definitely big up to that, because as you know, family, we always do what we need to do and keep it ultimately gully, or as they used to say, keep it real, or as real as you can in this era of bitch-assness. But so this week was really, really good, and also kind of humbling for me, because it really showed me how much, again, progress can come off like regress to certain non-developed entities. So, of course, we found somebody trying to bootleg our 575-page book through photocopies, and then got the nerve to charge 80 bones for it, over though we charging 30. I'm good, man. I'm good.
No, I know. I'm just a beer.
And what I'm peeping is, regardless of how much or how long you maintain the integrity of your own, product, as well as your own artistic prowess. You know what I'm saying? You'll also have a lot of people coming through to do things, and energy coming through to test your resolve with what it is you're doing with it, or people feeling like they entitled. You know what I'm saying? To have certain energy or have what it is you have control in their possession. So, again, it'd be that energy of like, well, I don't really like that nigga, but I like this, so I'm going to exploit this aspect of it, but now support this aspect. So I say all of this to say and use, again, myself as an example, because that's the only example that I can use, to let you know that the harder you work to get $1, you got to realize you got to work doubly as hard, because there's about 4 or 5 people that's going to work triply as hard to squeeze that $1 4 ways, 5 ways away from them. You know what I'm saying? So you definitely want to do the knowledge to that. You also want to do the knowledge to the fact that the more consistent you are with your own, like I said, creativity and ingenuity, the more you will be in situations where people are striving to disconnect you from that. You know what I mean? So a lot of that type of energy that I went through this week, and just dealing with this, also like the gall, like what it takes for somebody to be that desperate and that grimy that they would create a system where they would sit there and copy 575 pages, front and back drawings and stuff. Like, that is next level dedicated hatred, man. It's like, you gotta really, because they not doing that to nobody else's book. Ain't nobody did that to Valentine's book. Ain't nobody did that to anybody else's book that they'll come out. I'm just doing it now. I was like, damn, what is it with me, with these niggas is just totally avaricious. So, of course, I got the right intel. I found out who it was, called the person directly, dealt with it. And, of course, the person denied it, as I knew they would, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's not even about me and this person or the people that's striving to do things like that. I'm just doing the knowledge that the more consistent, again, you strive to be, and the more you strive to keep what it is you are doing unsullied and out of the realm of other people's influence and energy, to maintain the integrity of the work that you're doing, the more you will sometimes incur the wrath of these same people now who feel like you cut them off, or entities who feel like you cut them off. Because we're really dealing with, possession to a certain degree, as well as dispossession. You know what I mean? Feeling so outside of one's own self or one's own creative spark that you would try to subsist upon the works, again, of someone else. Very interesting. But again, in this phase of my life, I'm striving to not take things as personally as I may have taken them a couple of years ago. I reached a level in my own development where I realized that I don't need to be as hands-on, you know what I'm saying, as I used to be when it comes to going all out in terms of producing material, you know, staying consistent, all of that. Because, to keep it real with you, I had to take a step back and evaluate myself as to what I was really doing this for. What am I really doing, these DVDs, these lectures, these tapes, these books, you know, this music? Like, what am I really striving to do that? What is my purpose? But not only that, what is my intent? What is my true intent behind it? Am I doing this because I'm dealing with some sort of inadequacy? Am I doing this because I'm dealing with some sort of inadequacy that hasn't necessarily been reconciled to myself, so I need other people to validate me and tell me that? I can keep it real with you. There was a point when I was going through the family court thing that, at least in the first couple of years I was going through it, I started to really feel like I was totally alone. You know what I mean? And in feeling alone, what's up, G? And in feeling alone in that, the only solace that I found in it was doing my own paperwork, doing my own knowledge to my own experience and what was happening to me, and I was being, you know, in a sense, coerced into dealing with. But it's the money. You had it, baby. It was right over there. So, you know, it's a situation where people are put. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to get in the tub. In the tub, baby. 125. 125. Nah, G, it's getting to the point where, I'm sorry, man. I just got a little boy who don't want to do anything he doesn't do. Okay. You had it in your hand. Oh. You did it, bro.
You know what, love? I'm going to go outside again.
You know what I'm saying? So it's created a situation where, like I said, people have literally gone all out, you know what I mean, to create a situation to, I think, sometimes draw me, just using, again, myself as an example, to draw me into an open confrontation based upon the fact that I really don't care about dudes enough to engage, you know what I mean? So what you have to understand is that when you can subsist upon your own energy, this goes for every black man, woman, child, white, anybody. If you can subsist and maintain a energy amongst your own energy and perpetuate that to its utmost, then what happens is you become self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency is not about necessarily doing everything for yourself. It's about understanding the self enough to know what your direct limitations are and enhancements are, where your triggers come from and why your triggers come. You know what I mean? Who triggers you in situations and why does that person trigger you? This is all aspects of self-awareness. And because we were never trained coming up by our parents, our grandparents, basically to do the knowledge that they never wanted to come out. And basically, I don't know why, I would tell you, like, we know what the story is. Oh, well, when you a black man, you got to, deal with this. When you a black woman, you got to deal with this. When you this, you deal with that. But you got to remember, most 85 them deaf and blind people don't even care about any of that. Most of them don't even do the knowledge to what it is you know, what it is you don't know. Most 85 niggas base everything on how you look. You understand what I'm saying? Everything based upon one aspect of visual stimuli. That's what you are based on, what your archetype or image is. Then everything else, they basically start to conceptualize around that. So when people talk about things like love at first sight or being able to have somebody in your cipher and then you just automatically realize, wow, I could be with this person. That's because you built up aspects of the personal relationship, which then allowed you to see the beauty that exists in the person. Those are usually relationships that last longer than those relationships based solely on looks and all of that. But how can you not have relationships like that when everything, especially coming from mainstream media, has been manipulated to facilitate the ego? Well, these are the different nuances that come into being when you start to pay attention to the aspects of yourself as a conscious individual. And as a conscious individual, it is your responsibility to yourself to know yourself so much so that you know who and what ciphers you should be in and shouldn't be in. Just because, you know what I'm saying, you could be the hardest nigga in the world and be in another cipher with a bunch of other hard dudes, but that don't necessarily mean that's the cipher that's most geared to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta, like when I say water finds its own level, we have to start to realize that there are, just because all of us are melanated don't mean that we all got to work together, because not all of us are working towards the same end. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Those people, the main people, when you read things like the Bible and things like that are scourging and striving to get everybody in the world unified, are people who are functioning from that whole New World Order perspective, meaning that we need to get everybody on the same page to rock like this. That will never happen, y'all. It's never going to get to a point where all black people on the whole entire world are going to see things the same way. It's not going to be no situation in the planet where every Caucasian person in the world is going to see things the same way. It can only be those who see things for what they are and deal with things as they present themselves are the ones that propel themselves into the future. So, again, in the case in point this time, when I'm finding that these niggas is to the point where they so savage, so thirsty that they would try to, again, sit there and try to print up an entire 575-page book that took me almost 8 years to conceptualize, and really of that 3 years to really get to a point where I could get it in and get it out how I needed it to keep it as pristine as possible, for these people to come behind that and then mark up the price for $80. I got a thing on my website now that says anybody who buys one of these fake bootleg Dark Soul 418 books for one of these deadbeat, beatless, worthless-ass niggas that's trying to sell my stuff and cut me out of the deal. If you're buying this book for $80, or if you have purchased it for $80, and you want to get the original book, then all you got to do is mail me the copy that you got back as to where you purchased it from, and I will send it to you. I'll send you a pristine, real one with the right page numbers and all of that corrected in it, because the initial ones they put out didn't have that. So, again, this is what I mean about, you know what I mean, taking time out to deal with this, because this is the energy that they want me and other brothers to waste our time dealing with. Most niggas want us to waste time. Like I looked at the thing that happened recently with Brother Umar Johnson. You know, I don't know him personally, but I know the struggle that he's going through. You know what I'm saying? Based upon, you know, the works that you know what I'm saying, the works that he is striving to keep consistent, and, you know, who's trying to destroy it and discredit that. You know what I mean? But, again, this is indicative not just of, you know, his story or my story. This is indicative of anybody who is striving to do something and keep it as pristine as possible. This could be you with your child. Maybe you don't want to have your child eat such and such a thing. So that means that if you don't want your child to eat such and such a thing, that means that you can't send them to auntie this one house or auntie or uncle this one house, because they're going to try to just disrespect you anyway and feed them what they want to feed them just to spite you. Like, I know these niggas can't be making no heavy bread off of that, because I'm not even making heavy bread off of my own book right now, because every little profit I get, I got to put back into it to get it out. Found it? Great. So it's a consistent thing in terms of how it is we have to reorganize and reevaluate what we say when we say our community. We have to be very and more discerning. And again, all of the quotes and things that come from Super Heru Radio, because I'm the main host and stuff, these are things that I have observed as I'm going through my daily life, striving to stay right and exact with things. So people can have their opinions about everything. You know what I mean? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one. However, these are my opinions. These are my findings. This is my research. So on Super Heru Radio, this is the place where I want everybody to feel free to come on and say whatever it is you want to say, whenever you want to call in, man. Because unlike a lot of other forums, in this forum, this is about really free thinkers. This is about people who forge their own path instead of feeling bullied and being put in positions that have to be up under somebody else. Because in the end, that's homoerotic. Those situations where you feel confined or be put in situations around people that you know don't have your best interest in mind, but you around them just for the sake of, oh, this person conscious, or oh, this person got a certain degree of knowledge. Don't waste your time like that, because if that person didn't have that knowledge, you wouldn't be wasting your time with them. So what that also means is that you're at a certain stage in your development that you have to start to discern who is who and what is what for your damn self. Because then when the person come and turn around and bite you, then you wondering why. Well, damn, why is this nigga coming at me like that when I wasn't like that with him? Well, that person is like that because that's that person's nature. So a person can say anything, just about anything, do just about anything. But when it comes to what they actually are going to be judged for, it is the things that they do themselves directly. It's no one else. You know what I'm saying? So as much as these so-called, you know what I mean, conscious people or whatever want to have certain things in motion, what we always have to remember is that motion is indicative of action. And most of our people have not taken any direct action for anything other than what other people are saying needs to be done. So the question is, what do you think can make the movement better? And if that's the case, what are you doing in your own present life to make that happen? You know what I mean? Like we don't realize how powerful our energy and our words are. You can save somebody's life just by giving them a smile sometimes, just by walking down the street and greeting somebody with some peace. How are you, tip? Like, there's a lot of things that we take for granted based upon the fact that we don't realize that we are actually living miracles, man. Because none of us have to be here. You understand? You incarnated here for a specific reason and purpose. So until you figure that out, you're going to be meandering around here, bumping your head on walls and stuff like everybody else, trying to figure out what your purpose is. Every story, every movie, every fairy tale I've ever read or heard about is always this is the case. So this means that this is the grand story or the story of humanity. So the more we are becoming next generation humans, the more they are doing things, or people are doing things to put them outside of this, so-called human families of the planet Earth. This energy that we're talking about in terms of this new dark matter, dark energy 2012 thing is really a realization that we as melanated beings have been wasting time in this realm. That at least, again, from my calculation, it's way longer than that. But from my calculation, this thing went south way before 1492. But 1492 is significant because that, again, is a jump point or a date that allows us to focus on an aspect of our genealogical we have to close it. Our genealogical evidence that allows us to have this ancestral memory. I asked you to close the door, okay? That represents this ancestral energy. So this ancestral energy that we refer to as consciousness is a singularity it is a singularity that is unfolding with us every moment of every day. So every day that you think about what your consciousness is and what your ancestors were, where you come from and where you're going, getting the very energy to manifest what we would call future time currents that allows you to propel yourself forward. So, again, that means that every choice that you make basically is creating the next set of choices that then create the next set of potential realities that exist all simultaneously with this one. So this reality is going through significant magnetic changes and changes in the magnetic field, which are causing huge chunks of what I refer to as opposite energy to manifest in the present physical world. A couple of years ago, they made global warming a big thing. But at the same time they're talking about global warming, they're actually talking about Europe now getting ready to go into another ice age. What's up with that? Then they tell you you're in a free society, but every other day, another black man is shot down and murdered. This time they shot a brother 46 times, right? You think that with all the police killings and stuff like that, people have gone to jail. Proven evidence, proven aspects of police brutality. You think that they would create a national referendum or something like that against that? No. Because police brutality maintains the status quo. And that's fine, because every system is supposed to function within the parameters of itself. So if that's how the United States fictional government wants to run its citizens, to terrorize its citizens, to keep them in line, it's in its obligation to do that because it feeds its citizens. Makes bus routes for them, sends Medicare and stuff for them, and all of that. As real as a lot of our individual communities are, and that have been able to become self-sufficient, it's not helping everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody is not coming up. So, I'm not a communist. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't expect something, everybody to have the same piece of bread, everybody to have the same pair of shoes and all that. Like, I don't subscribe to that either. But, brothers and sisters, you have to look at this from the aspect of Ma'at. Like when you research your ancient ancestors, right, and you're reading all of these great books. By the way, you can go to www.darkscroll418.com and go to the book list section, and I try to update it every other day. So there's more books on it than it was from the first time we launched it. And all of these books are basically reference materials that I've read over the many years that helped me basically put together my opus called the Dark Scroll 418. But aside from all of that, the resonance energy or residual energy of us as remnants of that glorious history still exists in your genetic DNA pattern. In your brain, there is a synapse, or what they refer to as a region of the brain they refer to as DMAX2. DMAX2 is the part of the brain that basically hooks you up into the higher resonant function and maintains the lower resonant function. This is the enzyme that works equally with the pineal organ and the orchic organ or orchic gland, which is the pineal organ of the lower hemisphere of the body. This thing is so important that a lot of information about it is starting to be switched up from when I first started reading about it, when I started studying bioluminescence or bioluminescent energies in the synapse firings of the brain. And so it's funny that there's a grant now from one of these institutions that's trying to find ways to isolate the DMAC gene itself and harvest its properties. But remember, these are people who told you that this DMAC section or whatever of your brain, of your body, basically is junk DNA that really doesn't do anything. That's just another way of, you might as well just call it crazy DNA then, because crazy is usually the word that they use to dismiss somebody, right? So why not call it that? They rather call it junk, so that way you don't even bother. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to look through junk? You know what I'm saying? This then shows you the application of word sound power in its physical usage and how you can use a word and you can just create a sign, for instance, that just says keep out and people don't go into it. You know what I'm saying? Unless their intent is to break in or do something else. So to take that from a microcosm to a macrocosm, anything that you intend by way of thought becomes action by the very function of thinking it. That's why some girls get real caught up, or some women will get caught up if you walking down the street with them and another woman passes and then you look at that other woman. Because that woman is not upset at you for necessarily looking. She's upset at the actual thought process. The actual intent is her problem. You intended to look at this chick. You see what I'm saying? With me here. Which no doubt shows insecurity, but it shows the level that females is dealing with. You know, females have terms like mental cheating, and, you know what I mean? Things like that. Like, you thinking about cheating is just like cheating. And there's aspects of the Christian faith that believe the same thing. You know what I mean? That going to the strip club is fornication. You know what I mean? Me, I'm striving not to be judgmental. I'm striving to change my judgments into assessments. Or I would say definitive assessments that allow me to be clear and not fall into the booby traps that are set out to us in the consciousness on coming out or on coming into it. For those people who may be first-time listeners to Super Heru tonight, for those people who are long-time listeners, whether you just coming in or have always been down, you know that we or I have always talked like this, and that I've always strived to deal with aspects that are not necessarily commonly referenced but dealt with specifically, and I've taken great pride in doing that. You know what I'm saying? But in anything, like I said, that you're doing like that, you're going to have people that are going there to specifically show and prove what their true intent is with you. That's why spirituality is so important when it comes to dealing with aspects of culture, integrity, character, even research. So, case in point, there's been a lot of, hype for the past couple of years about the 2012 situation and what that means for the world. Now, after December 21st come and go, different texts have different, there's not one specific text that really, comes out that says what, even the so-called Mayan calendar, when you read it or go through it, there's no aspect that says what exactly is going to happen. Yet, because we all feel that something is coming or something is happening, then we know that whatever it is really going to be a manifestation of whatever we choose to see it as. Therefore, your sight, again, is very important in terms of how the so-called system will use to influence what it is you may be feeling, experiencing, or seeing. Therefore, preparation, or the mental preparation that we are all going through by building ourselves spiritually, building ourselves consciously, is actually having adverse effects on others around us who are not vibrating or striving to vibrate to that level. So what happens is you have people who begin to urge other people into ways of thinking against, let's say, other ideas. So you'll never hear me say, don't read this, don't listen to this person. You'll hear me say things like, well, if you listen to this person and you see such and such, then you really need to do the knowledge as to what it is you've seen. You'll never hear me say, if you happen to be, let's say, a Satanist or something like that, that's what you want to do that. But don't get mad at me if I'm going to tell the people who don't want to deal with that or who are potentially wanting to deal with that, the 411 or the total package on what recruiters from whatever groups or systems may want to tell their candidates. Hierarchical systems exist for the purpose of organizing human thought to create a specific outcome in not only the world, but the species mind pattern itself. So the species, the origin species mind pattern of, let's say, original humanity exists within the genetic code and the spiritual code of the indigenous peoples of the planet. So of the indigenous of the planet, there again is a hierarchy within that, because if we go back to the original of it, we tend to get darker. The closer up into history we get, the more we see the complexions and things of people change, which I guess had to be the aspect of the human condition as it progressed into the future, based upon what was existing in the world prior to human civilization. So when one researches information about a given topic or a specific time period, it might behoove the researcher to take themselves out of the context of a 21st century mind state and try to imagine or put themselves in the mind state of being of the 14th or 15th century. Because then what happens is, or whatever century you're studying, because then what happens is you take out the voyeuristic aspect of your research and become more of a participating observer in the history, because everything we're reading about and talking about really are dead people. When we refer to history or anything that happened even a day ago, we're talking about something that doesn't exist anymore, because it already happened, so it exists. But in the existence now, there's nothing else for it to do, so therefore it's done. That's why rituals had to be created to help keep people perpetually involved in the building of societies, to allow the participation of the people to anchor themselves emotionally to the outcome of whatever society they're a part of. So, however whack or uncivilized the society is, because there's components of it that seem civilized or are civilized, then that lends itself to the human perception of hope and the idea that it may get better. So the unique thing about us as beings with souls is that we know that regardless of how bad something is, it could switch up the same way and get even better. The same way it went from worse, it could go to better, almost simultaneously sometimes. You still continue to participate in a slowed down version of what real reality is. And we did this or do this to learn about the aspects of ourselves that we have chosen to deny up until the point that we have become conscious of them. Therefore, they will sometimes come to you in mirror aspects of almost monstrous appearances to get you to confront that and break through it. But in the context of physical confrontations or physical conflicts, whether clandestine or deliberate or covert or overt, struggle then is up to the people involved to rationally come to some sort of solution, even if that solution is to go to war, or even if that solution is to be totally indifferent to the entire thing and just know about your business, which is really in most cases the best way. But for some reason, human attachment and ego creates the thing where people feel they're owed things. You know what I'm saying? But if the person who feels owed would have told the person who at the time that this person was doing whatever he was doing for them, that they was going to eventually hold it over their head as some sort of obligation or debt, then most likely in the earlier circumstance, the person, the obliger, right, probably wouldn't participate in the whole exchange in the first place. Meaning, if people knew for a fact that people was getting sacrificed once they reached a certain level of fame by the same people who they came up or put them in that position of fame, a lot of people wouldn't go out for the position. A lot of people would, but a lot of people wouldn't. So that means if you know how deep, again, the pool is, then you can gauge how far you're in it. But if somebody just throw you in the pool, you know, and you don't know if it's the deep end or the shallow end, you just kind of bugging until you figure out where you at, where you fit in the scheme of whatever's going on. So applying that knowledge or context to the community, it's the same thing. If you're going to join something or become a part of something, speak to people who are part of it, who were either for or against it, and then make your own rational opinion whether or not you want to be a part of it. And don't feel, or you should never feel, obliged or forced to engage with anyone who you don't feel comfortable with. Because essentially that is why we're all in the position we're in right now, because somebody is striving to force us, so we have been bred in a system that instills in us the idea of conforming, while appearing to be all about freedom and justice and security and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, like, in August, this August, yesterday, whatever, we had the new moon that started on the 18th. And, you know, symbolism-wise, it's very good for the sign of Leo, specifically. And in this is about, you know, turbulent situations, and out of them, you know, coming into a clearer view and a clearer understanding of what needs to be done. And so this can be seen symbolically, let's say in a biblical reference, by the story of Gilgamesh or Noah, you know, going through the whole crazy tide of everything, and then finding solace in the deluge, which is the receding of the waters, in finding land, or what would be now the new earth, or what the Mayans would call the third world. Yeah. Thank you. And based on that, you know, you gotta, that's cool. You can just leave it on. It's okay. Thank you. These circumstances, as we see them coming into view as, again, people coming from one state of being into the other, is the whole Hiram, Aseer coming back from the dead, or Dark Phoenix, or Phoenix Rising situation that is seen as rebirth. Yet you cannot rebirth something in the same form. You know what I'm saying? So as this country goes into a new form, because it was basically created from a Republican or federal side dualistic nature, one representing the right hemisphere and the other representing the left hemisphere, these wars that we have seen take place throughout what we call human conflict, or years of human conflict, are really, in my view, aspects of the species mind pattern working against not only the outside influence, but working out the issues of itself through the physical confrontations or lack of physical confrontations of human beings who walk around on the world. But just like everything else, you could be a smarter bee. Like one bee, there was a study done where they were studying bees, and they were trying to see if that all drone bees had the same consciousness level, or were some bees smarter than others. And to test this, they created a kind of bee maze, if you will, where they had the queen in a certain way and had it structured where the bee could go one way or the other based upon the pheromone that was given from the queen. And it was seen that different bees, that predominantly they all, if we deal with percentile, about 60% of them did the same thing identically, but then the rest of them all had different approaches, which again shows a different level of consciousness within the bee, which is why, again, the study on that, to me, was really a study to test the upgrading, or what they have been perceiving as the upgrading of the animal kingdom and the other aspects of Earth life, becoming more conscious of itself. So specifically speaking, we're talking about the upgrading of everyone's universal perception and the peering through of the veil of what we perceive the reality to be, which is why the new drugs and all of the movies and stuff always have to have these dystopian futures of one basic mode of control, and then a certain group of people after a certain amount of time coming into and flipping it and freeing them. But you never see what happens to the people like after, except in movies like Resident Evil, where they take you into the web, essentially, of the spider, the umbrella corporation, which essentially is corporations in general, but specifically as a biological corporation. It took you into the different levels, not only of the dream, but of the artificial reality set aside for people to inhabit, and how you can come out of one level of the program and then fall into a deeper level, but feeling like you're upgrading your consciousness, but getting to the bottom of the truth of something. The truth is a lifelong pursuit. It's not something that is automatically, accepted by everyone. Like, everybody could know it's true, but they're not necessarily going to do nothing about it. So everybody could know black, brown, white, yellow, that police specifically dominate and try to dominate and target black males specifically. You know what I mean? But anybody going to do nothing about it, because they could always look at it and say, but if you didn't like the sisters so much, then why is there so many black officers and people like that down with us in these killings and shootings and all of that? Then what are we going to say? Oh, well, we got into it because we wanted to change. Well, how can you change a system that you already know has been created specifically for the purpose of dismembering families, for ritualistic purposes? You know what I mean? Like, it can't be accidents anymore. That has to be done away with in terms of any circumstance. It should almost be assumed. The same way they assumed that black man was guilty when they arrested him or shot him up or tased him or whatever, it's the same way they should feel the same obligation when put on them. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. So like I said, with this energy that's permeating right now, with this new moon in Leo, is a lot of, chest beating and all of that, and a lot of pride talking and hubris, you know what I'm saying, false pride. And a lot of that, like I said, usually hubris comes from insecurity, you know what I mean? So it's something that comes from an insecurity when you're constantly trying to berate individuals that are not participating in the same exchange, you know what I'm saying? So to juxtapose one mode of contact in terms of communication, and then when that isn't fulfilled, then taking it to a open forum with not really all of the, and with the intent of manipulating opinion of others, you see what I'm saying, of another or other individuals, it creates a backwards vortex of
duplicitous energy.
Yes.
Of duplicitous energy, and just speaking and thinking about the just certain sacred texts. I was not even comparing, but just reading certain sacred texts. Of course, the Bible, concordance, all that, but looking at certain stuff in just the Rosicrucian, certain texts that I have stated. And what's great to remember is to allow those that do need to be heard, allow them to scream as loud as they need be, and not take things so personal that you get caught up in the dogma of the now and not being able to see the future and not being able to celebrate that. But just really thinking about the basics and knowing that, you don't have to do things on a massive scale in order for people to appreciate you or your worth or your work. And the same thing, if any person or woman, has ever felt violated, especially like by a boyfriend or a guy or anybody that they're dating, it's the sense of pride and the sense of self-worth gets checked in situations like that. And just thinking about how one figures out their sense of self-worth. Sometimes you go through relationships where you allow people to hurt you more than once, and you say, wow, because everybody sees us as a great couple, and because, everybody sees how wonderful we look together, and because I feel the pressure of, not being with him, not even in, my own heart, but if I leave this guy, everybody's going to think I'm whack, so I'd rather just stay with him and deal. All of that, it can be inner turmoil. And the same thing, if people speak to you and you feel that they're always speaking in double talks or if you feel emotionally compromised or like your stomach starts to ache even though you really like this person, those are all triggers and signs that something in your body is allergic to the experience. And you really want to listen and be able to tune into that so that you can, really know that, you're not being mean, you're not trying to hurt this person, you're not trying to hurt, these family members, you're not trying to hurt this baby mom, but I've got to, you've also got to do what feels right spiritually for you and to you in your heart at all times, especially now. And it's sometimes difficult, because to stand in a space where you say, no, I love myself enough to let you go and to not allow the pain to come from feeling violated in whatever way. And, stick to that. Don't feel like, you have to be pressured into any relationships that don't bring you joy, that feel tumultuous when you're not bringing anything directly to cause turmoil. The same thing, just checking in text and remembering to look for energies that speak in polar opposites, or in what we would like to call fourth tongue. If someone is always using a way to set you up to make a point or an agenda, then be aware of that, because that's part of a psychological experiment that they might not even know that they're participating in or making you have to pass. It's like that to me is the elevation of people taking themselves beyond what humanity considers to be just everybody's space of just common respect. I sometimes meet a lot of people that really don't know how to work out and aren't eating well, and, they're just like, no, I don't know, woman at the bodega, she's like, no, my daughter, she's not breathing well and all this. So she starts talking to me, and I'm like, oh, she might be allergic. It's always to remember to not use people's lack of knowledge as an opportunity for you to capitalize and to profit, whether it be financially or emotionally. For me, the bloodline that I come from, the way my mother raised me, it's to, yes, love others, but love yourself enough that you don't feel as though you have to become something that you're not in order to allow people to like you. So, even though a lot of my friends didn't donate clothes to people when they were young, it was something I really felt I needed to do, because I spent so much time in acquiring material goods that it started to play in my spirit, and I wanted it to start to share. And, you either have a spirit where you come out screaming and fighting, or you come out and you're in peace and you know what your purpose is. But like attracts like, and water attracts people that come from the same frequency of water. You're either really cold, some people are really extreme, either cold or hot. And I'm saying all this to say, listen to your heart. Know what feels right for you. Sometimes I don't want to fear doing the work that he does, because it can trigger people emotionally and free them up and allow their thoughts to start thinking about things that they might not have known before. And it can have a twofold effect. I've had women in his lectures that, can sometimes get their periods just on spot. And they're like, oh, my God, my cycle started, because it's a flow and a reconnection of your DNA and of also remembering, and sometimes people don't like that process, and they can get upset that they sometimes, can't invoke the same outcome, but that's not something that we came into the world, or Aseer came into the world choosing to do, like, I want to, affect people so much that they vomit. No, but, when you are, it's like going to yoga class. You are filled with certain toxins the night before. If you do an inversion, you are going to vomit no matter what you do. And I say that to say I a long time ago was like, this is something that's a gift of his, being able to read text and remember facts and dates, and even comedy books, magazines, just to be around somebody that has the ability to put names together and remember them really well. It's great. It's really cool. But, I never wanted to start to become frustrated in not having the same skill or the same craft. So I decided to activate and do things that I know I'm blessed with and focus on my creativity. And the same, support him, because when you are in a situation where you have gifts, and this is for anybody, you have to be around people that hopefully can support them and not make you feel bad about what you do naturally. If we weren't doing this, we would be doing this. So I always say, I have to thank people that are still working on figuring out how to love, even if they came from a place of envy. How to transmute that is by really asking the Creator to take the pain away from your heart and to stimulate you with something, with a newfoundness, something that you're good in, and to not allow, the dark side to pull you so in that you're not able to enjoy what it is the Creator birthed you for. And that's huge right now. Like, everybody is melting and merging, but, if we celebrate each other's uniqueness and unique qualities, we'll all be able to be, in a good space. And I just want, for me to be able to continue to be inspired to tell stories of just what I've experienced in my personal life through music and through art, and to be able to support people and attract people that want to do the same in life, is to share good food and love, and, to know that your love is so good that, and your love is genuine, that if someone is abusing it and you're doing things from a place of abundance for all, then you don't have to question yourself and say, well, what did I do wrong? And these people are making me feel bad, so let me consider doing this or going down this path. It's, sometimes people get so engorged with how they can shift energy by being intelligent or by having wordplay. But remember, Lucifer and the devil, the trickster, is very good at using words to create illusion, to create things that aren't real. That whole trick knowledge stuff, I've really been quiet and listening and being like, no, I want to embrace people that feel like, they have to have something that I have. Like, I was at a restaurant in New York, and this girl was just interrupted my conversation and started talking to us, and it was real pleasant, real nice, and she was like, well, it's your fault. You're so magnetic. And I stood back for a second, and I was like, I was sitting down, but I was like, wow, that really, she blamed me for having her engage in conversation in me, because she said to me that my energy is so magnetic and dynamic that, how dare you, you must stop whatever, wherever you go. And that's not what I'm thinking in my head. But people that have, abilities to do things aren't, that you either are using them for good or using them for evil. And I said to her, I was like, well, now that you asked your questions, I would love to eat my food, but I appreciate, the truth. And it's just crazy, because you don't want anything in life. For me, I don't want anybody in life to feel like they can't become great. And that comes from your upbringing, and it comes from your given circumstances. And every day I'm thankful, even though I don't have a lot of the family that I was raised with alive. I'm always thankful that my mother was so encouraging and taught me that I never had to pop my pussy or use my body and trick people into liking me and all of this. I'm very thankful for that. And I just want everybody to be inspired to do what they like doing, and not to feel afraid, not to be afraid of anybody or any human elements or anything in the world, because, if we are all energy, then those people that have chosen to be evil because they see what it can materialize for them in the material third-dimensional realm, it must be exciting, because you do get rewarded in this material realm. As says the Bible, those that are the most lacking in spirit and in Christ will have the most and will be chanting the most of how much they're doing. And, I slept with 80 women, and I've done this and I've done that, and I painted 1,000 walls, and I've done, I've all of that it's a little extra when you're in a mature space. But the mature space people don't chastise those that are figuring that out. You want to help them say, hey, you don't have to scream so loud to be heard, because you too are special. And that's where I want all of us to try to, move into, even thinking about certain movies and just stuff that I've learned throughout life, and knowing that, yes, there is a passion in evil, but good will always prevail. God will always shine through. The light will always come out after the darkness. I just saw this movie Legend again, and that was great, to remember basic principles, because as we move more into an age of technology, we might forget, based on how much we can invoke and how much, the human hand can physically change this material reality. You want to remember that, not to get caught up in that, and not to use it and wield it for your own personal gain, and to try. We all make mistakes, but if we try to be upstairs, then, God will forgive us, even if we do mess up, or the best parts of ourselves will say, hey, do a little better next time, but not punish you for not getting it right. So I just say I love y'all, man, for really supporting us. And the same thing, I love people that, I want to embrace people that aren't in a space of love and know that I'm praying for you and I'm sending, I can't be where I was 4 or 5 years ago in a space of just anger and retaliation and feeling of loss and betrayal. And those are all emotions that you have to confront and go through in order for them to not be as powerful in your body. And even, last week it's like you just get back, came back on Tuesday, and today is Monday. It hasn't even been a week, and it's like, okay, jump back in, do this, do that, react to this, and it's like, no, you know what? I'm going to let the person know what is, what's going on in the world, that I don't have to react anymore. I don't have to do that. And like all these, these sci-fi movies that always talk about, there's one in particular, and it was this whole ploy on a city, and they, this government was like, these military installation was like, let's just see how long it takes these people to kill each other. We don't even have to do anything. They'll do it on their own. I said to myself, what if somebody did make up, a story about our book being bootlegged? It's coincidental if it's 8 people or more, but, let me address it by sharing the information to the person that's being accused and say, hey, brother, hey, sister, this is, I just want you to know these are the people that are saying this about you. I'm not saying it. And if you have a problem, you should call them, because it is kind of weird if 8 different people or 6 or 5 or whatever the number is saying this about, what it is you may or may not do. But I say that to say, in not entertaining it, we might find out that it's some entity that is not real. If it is, then you'll see evidence. And if it's not, then you chuck it up to the creator and say, regardless to who or what, the book must be damn good. It's 600 pages. And I almost wanted to encourage our bootleggers to buy from our website, because we'll get a donation of the $30, and you could still triple the cost of the book and make your money. And, that to me is is a sacred hustle. It's like, well, at least I'm getting it from the source. And then I don't know who has a printing press in their backyard or in their house to sit there, and I know it's $80 because the ink for the pages is a lot. And I just want to say that, working together is not cutting the hand that feeds you. Working together and showing homage is saying, you know what, I don't want to even let them know that I'm doing this, but I'm going to buy the book from them, their site, for $30, and then flip it for my own price. That, to me, would be more acceptable than slaving over it or having someone do all that, like the psychological dedication that it's got to take. I couldn't do it. So I just want to say thank you for helping us spread the word and getting our book out there, and thank you for having trust in our product so much that you can, make that happen overnight, because it took me a long time to get the energy together for it. And I appreciate those that are circulating love, and I appreciate those that are still figuring it out, because you're my greatest teacher. And I'm just thankful that I'm sleeping well. Things are great. And when I am in New York, life is so blissful and wonderful. I wanted to thank New York for just showing us a great time and reminding me of all the things I learned living there, and being strong enough to know that I could still have a life and not living there. And I wouldn't be betraying anybody by moving. And that's been great. Whoever can't make a step like that for family or for whatever, know that you always have the freedom to make a choice to be happy, and the pursuit of happiness is very deep. So with that, I've blabbed enough. Have a good night, you guys. I love you. Thank you for supporting. And I have some good stuff coming. I just want to share some good stories, and hopefully you guys like the music coming out. Try to make something visually stimulating soon. All right. Have a good one, you guys. Take care. And if anybody has any questions about anything, call, email. I'm around. All right. Peace.
Peace. All praise is due to the Empress. And it's like we all still, the real underlying thing in all of this, beside the COINTELPRO, beside all of the backbiting and infighting and all that stuff that's going down, all of that stuff at the root of it is money, man. You know what I mean? For most of these people involved, it's just money. So even with me, it's like I'm taking a financial hit. People are trying to take money out of my children's mouths, you know what I'm saying, just to, in some ways, really just spite me. And that's all well and good, but when, you have grown men who get so personal with you, it really creates situations where, as a man, you have all of these different reactions of how you want to deal, but in the end, I ain't never steal no money from nobody. I ain't never sleep with nobody's wife. I ain't never do nothing to nobody where anybody should have so much verve for me or my wife or my family. You know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with nothing. So, in the understanding of the root of this stuff, I began to research, a lot of the operations that were loosed into our so-called American populace during or after the days, right after all of a lot of the stuff that they're doing now was rushed in after the 9/11 thing, and they were able to do so much based on the fear level of the people. So at the time of that situation, there was going to be a giant, raid on white-collar crime, that was coming down based upon some of the deals that had been made earlier by systems that were trying to break out of the so-called program. That's why the whole false flag thing, I feel, had to go down in the first place, to get them to get rid of those aspects of the government that was specifically working against the inner cabal that, again, was leftover remnants of people from the Magic 12 Nazi division or bureau that was given limited autonomy, that was then let loose into the American populace, the British or Brazilian populace, and places like that, all for the sake of garnering more conventional and new Nazi technology, which was really leftover technology and stuff that they had confiscated and made deals to get from those old Moorish emirs and people like that who, in their own power, was waning. In what we have in the terms of the old empire, or what they used to refer to in history books as the old man of the West, the old Turk. So the mode of creating psychic killers and things like that had already been a practice amongst us that had been in our employ since the days of the mystery schools that existed in who were shrouded in what they refer to as the Anseretic mysteries that led to the foundation of the Salamanca schools, as well as some of the quote-unquote black schools of Malagra, which, again, were taken over into the New World by the pirate Voodoo, who brought with him to IT the energy of that whole system of old Moorish dark spiritual technology that became known as the black arts, that then began to be employed by members of the quote-unquote clandestine services of the United States, which really are the domestic services of the United States. Most of the clandestine material and agencies that are running file analog profiles and digital profiles on more of the American populace than the populaces they are into in militaristic fashion. This leads to different forms of control and different forms of methodology that lead to the establishment of eventual prison systems that the result of these guys who they can't control wind up getting put into. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, you have situations like in Flatbush, they had some dude in a hazmat suit running out of people's houses, running in the street, running in people's cars and stuff, shooting people with like a Kalashnikov or something. And eventually he winds up holding some family hostage. And then from there, he winds up giving himself up. And then they come and confiscate the dude. So him, they leave alive, but the unarmed black man, they shoot 46 times. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it becomes this whole thing where when you start to research the mode of behavior in certain aspects of individuals in your own life and in the life of your work or play or whatever, they're exhibiting aspects of the model behavior that they have been integrated from for the past 6,000 years. That's why they say people don't change. You're not set in your ways you are after 6,000 years. Same thing with the black man who was begging to get killed. They gave him his wish, right? But this guy who went in and killed mad innocent people, he get taken out. The same way the dude Jared Wagner, who killed, who shot up that thing, killed 6 people, shot the astronaut's wife in the head, who just recovered remarkably, just as remarkably as the guy who allegedly got his face paid off by the black guy who happened to be Haitian, who, when they did the autopsy after shooting and killing him, they find that he had no flesh or no drugs or bath salts or whatever they want to say he had in his system, and nobody is investigating that. Nobody is even really going in there. Meanwhile, the guy with no face, who was basically dead, is now alive with half of a new face. What is the connection? What's the connection with Jared Wagner, who killed this chick and nobody has seen really since then, or shot this chick in the head, nobody really seen since then. And then afterwards now you get this other guy, James Holmes, right, who kills 12 people and wounds 50 of them. I did think at one point that the guy who shot the chick in the head in Pennsylvania, Jared Wagner, and the guy who shot the people up, the Joker. I got it. Mm-hmm. James Holmes. I'm starting to think that they the same dude. Like when you look at it side by side, they look at the same dude. It's just that the old guy seemed like they did something to his nose when he gave him a nose job or something. But either way, none of it sits right. The interesting thing is that the government had a program called GWEN, which stands for Ground Wave Network. And what it is it's EMP impulses that get funneled through a ground-based network that imply and trigger people who have been attuned to the frequency of that. This is the frequency of what they call the devil's note, which is allegedly the note that is used in heavy metal and goth, rock metal, black metal, death metal, all that. That continuous upbeat was supposed to be satanic, or brought people into aspects of the satanic realm. So this note specifically, or what they call the devil's note, became the primary aspect in the foundation of the initial music, which then leads to the understanding as to why the devil horns acts as physical amplifiers or antennas for those people to suck in the energy from what that thing is. And the bobbing of the head, the spinning of the cranium, you see what I'm saying, is the whirlwind or the tornado or the quickening that they put themselves in, almost into a Sufic trance. You know what I'm saying? So the interesting thing is that the government basically plotted these things all over the country, about 2,000 miles apart from each other. So it's interesting that the biggest facility emits its pulse that reaches both Colorado and Pennsylvania, which is where both allegedly these things occurred. At 225 or 400 megahertz, you know what I mean, is the base level. Well, let me take it back. 7.83 is the Earth's pulse. You know what I mean? Megahertz is like the Earth's pulse. So if somebody was to bombard you with frequency waves coming at a beat or pulse rate of 7.83 energons, if you will, it creates a stimulus aspect to the human body where it makes you feel good. But if you amplify that, especially by using the quote-unquote devil's note, right, you then potentially raise that up to, let's say, something like 10.90 megahertz. That's like riots. That's like anarchy. That's like, you know what I mean, mass killing. This is the studies on this are put in movies, like I said, like Resident Evil, all the zombie movies, you know what I mean, 28 Days Later, all of that type of stuff, because, you know, the gestation period for a lot of these projects and biological weapons have a 28-day period of gestation. You know what I mean? Because remember, they're trying to bring something unnatural into the natural realm, so they have to mimic or alter aspects of the natural realm to facilitate their movement in the sphere of this reality. So something unnatural has to come through a natural canal in order for it to have the necessary things needed to sustain physical existence. Yeah, Signal, all of those types of movies. All of that stuff is preparing you, or really there to try to prepare you for this exchange of, you know, technological advance. But remember, this was doable in 1974. They was basically perfected or unified the technology enough by the mid-30s. So that means that the energy that created it, or the impetus to, has to go back again to something earlier, which is where we get into the black arts and the black schools that were throughout Europe, that were tutelaged and taught by more of the alumbrados, who were striving to put themselves back in power, not only in Spain, but reunify the old empire against the Franciscan Moorish Empire that was coming into existence. In Masonic history, this is referred to as the War of the Ancients and the Moderns. It's the present war that's going on right now, not only in our physical world, but in our internal self. The ancient aspect of ourself comes to reconcile itself with the modern aspect of itself, which again is both sides of the brain reconciling themselves to get to a point of unihemispherical thinking. When you get shot and you get stabbed and stuff like that, it's not stabbing and shooting that kills you. It's the activation of the apoptosis gene. Remember when you heard this, again, on Super Heru Radio. It's the apoptosis gene that is isolated and comes online, because it comes online only when the cells have reached the point that they cannot self-regenerate anymore, because the damage is too great without outside help. So it comes online to tell the body that it's dead. That's why a zombie, because for a body to exist, naturally there has to be a soul attached to it. That's why zombies exist when they're dead, because the death is life for them, because they don't have any soul. So they're living a life now of having a soul. So the idea, what they don't show you, what I put in my book, is that the reason why they eat the brain specifically is because they're trying to eat enough brain matter, gray matter, pineal organ, enough to start to think themselves into a healing or a healed state. So it's almost like they start off in this new world as a zombie. They start off as a zombie, and the more they eat real people, the more they are striving or trying to make themselves believe that they're going to become human again. Just like in certain, what they call high vampire lore, it talks of this is coming out of books written by that were put into there's a summarized book of it called Paper Magic that you could get and read. But specifically, it gets into the vampiric aspect of how the vampire, after bitten and lived for 1,000 years, starts to get to a point where they begin to age so much that they begin to grow back into a fetus. So the older the vampire gets, the more they begin to revert into a almost prepubescent or fetal form with the consciousness and the blood-sucking aspect of the vampire. This is what they try to deal with in things like the ancient order of Memphis and Mizraim. Those people who are tricked into thinking that the one that they're dealing with is the real one. Remember, none of these orders are in their pristine state. To be in their pristine state, they would be Moorish orders, because it was the Moors that, again, gave the charters for the Freemasons and Buccaneers to eventually become Cavaliers and Yankees. There's a book called Cavaliers and Yankees that you can read that talks about this very same subject. Not in the graphic detail that I'm expressing it, because I am expressing it how I talk, but when you read the book, you can glean from yourself what is coming out of this particular instance. So in this too, and talking about that hazmat and this mind control thing, like I said, you look at the picture of Jared Butler and James Holmes together and see for yourself, see if I'm bugging, but they look like the same person. And it wouldn't surprise me, because you haven't heard nothing from the whole Wagner situation since the whole situation. So why not use the same dude twice? Because allegedly, the early reports said that people in the movie theater heard shots coming from all directions. Then there's a movie coming out called Gangster Squad, where the police come in the movie theater, and when the scene come on with people with Tommy guns come on, they come in and start shooting everybody in the movie theater. So they're right on with their ritualistic depiction of what's going on, but because they want to act like they're politically correct in some sort of instance, they want to flip it. So if you hear ringing in your ears and things like that, what you might want to do is try to chew on some gum first. If that doesn't go away, then get you a chew stick. The enzymes in the chew stick should start to soothe the inner ear as you ingest from the wood. If it persists, then it would be good for you to get copper or orgone pyramids and place them about your house. Also, in the corners of your ceilings, you can put almost like a pyramid, you know what I mean, that basically, keeps the energy circulating throughout the crib. It's very positive. It allows for good prefrontal lobe stimulation. A lot of this stuff that I'm talking about is also filed away, or I found in a Freedom of Information Act document about something called Project 112, which I thought was interesting because, the Group 112 was one of the, greatest, I think, one of the really good R&B groups that really consistently made, really good music, I thought, But again, that was in the days when people didn't know about the carnal feeding frenzy of the so-called music industry. So, things can be what they are. So, in that aspect, you're dealing with this level of consistency in terms of how the populace is being marketed and presented, this crazy killer theory, this zombie killer theory, this lone gunman, this you can't trust anybody theory, which trickles down to our aspect. We like to think that sometimes we're a lot more advanced because we deal with this consciousness than we really are. And when you see members who, were former colleagues, get reduced to base gestures, it becomes more, I think, prudent to appeal to the aspect of the reptilian brain that is being stimulated in the aspect of the opposite energy. You know what I'm saying? Because the amount of energy taken to do that, you know what I mean? I expend that when I'm in the water at the beach with my son. You know what I'm saying? Like, I also have seen, and what I'm urging all parents to do, is to, when you're dealing with, like, instances of like, real adult, deep context stuff, you really do it outside of the ear of the children. Because when we say that they advanced, we're not doing the knowledge of how advanced they are. And a lot of children, what our parents would consider fast, these children have wit. These children understand subtext. You know what I'm saying? These children are spelling. You have children who are spelling and reading and acting like they can't read, you know what I'm saying, to still be treated like a baby. Like, that's not necessarily manipulation of a child, of the parent at that point, but what that shows is a higher frequency of intelligence of a baby. Not saying that all babies are stupid, but babies don't have they're so pure. They're so pure that they don't have nothing. So they don't have no guile. So they're not weighted down with nothing. So in that, they're oblivious to everything. Yet to have a baby now that is receiving and accessing consciousness quicker than the parent is realizing is then creating instances where the child can sometimes then not trust you to take care of it because they peeping game and you not. So if you got that man that ain't doing nothing for you around your kids more than the father that want to be there, then something's wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a situation where you should be with your kids, but for whatever reason you are oblivious to the fact that that you and they don't have a choice what's going on. When the understanding that we have to get to is that the things that are happening to us are specifically happening to us. Everybody, through things like psychology and drugs and back talking and gossiping, that type of stuff has created the air where people feel like random aspects of life or creation are still random. Nothing can be random anymore when you get to the aspect of consciousness. You can't look at anything as coincidental or specifically uneventful anymore when you really are dealing with this, because you might miss it. Because the day that you decide, okay, well, I'm gonna do this to get that, you know what I'm saying, is the day that you are then forced to deal with that choice. You done made that deal. That's the deal. You know what I'm saying? But every deal creates a new reality. That's why souls are so important to this dude. You understand what I'm saying? Every choice makes an alternate reality, which then adds another fiber to the grand web of what we call the web of destiny, or another cog in the wheel of the clock of destiny, therefore making the clock bigger, expanding. Therefore, the time that, let's say, there was an alien invasion trying to come here, the longer it takes them to get here, the longer it would take them to get here, because the space that they are traveling through has already expanded to such a degree that they're basically where they started when they left. This is why when they start talking about time traveling, time manipulation and control and stuff, people are saying that, well, that's sci-fi, but we was doing that like I'm doing it with you right now. Building the time machine that you built is what they call the divine memory. There's a book called The Divine Pymander that you can read about that. You know what I'm saying? Big up El Baki. And in that aspect, coupled with the, let's say, positive magic that Randolph and Prince and Princess Mysteria and certain old black magicians, Black Herman and people like that, they were also dealing with the spiritual application of now having to take a divine art and gussy it up and turn it into some type of entertainment enough to get people to still have interest in it, to keep the energy, the dark matter and dark energy potent in the mind space or memory of the people, which would then allow the resurrection of the people at a future time based upon the memory being carried on the genetic line of the people into what we perceive as the future, which is really the now amplified. So the specter of thought that promotes the agenda that in order to build or create a situation, people have to be forcibly sequestered and put into a vice to come together, is the very opposite of what unity is. If you have to literally hold a gun to keep people in the same room to build, then that's not people who should be building. Maybe them people should build with they people should build with they people, and then once the actual resolution is then effectuated, then some sort of treaty is drawn up. But to force people to do business, or to force people, or to almost promote the idea that, some people are better than other people, is really juvenile, but to more of a degree, it's divisive. And the predominant aspect of it all just comes from not being applauded, because everybody likes gratitude. Everybody wants to be seen as great in what they do. I don't give a damn what it is you do or how pious you are. The great Buddha was striving to be a great Buddha. Therefore, the Buddha who said have no ambition had an ambition to have no ambition. Therefore, he had ambition. Therefore, the path to enlightenment comes from the drive and the intent of what you choose to have the enlightenment for. The goal is the outcome, but the journey is what allows the goal to be realized. These niggas want the goal without the journey. You know what I'm saying? They want it. People have different views of what accomplishments are. They have different views of what gratitude is. Gratitude is based on the ego as well. It really depends. It depends on how your ego likes being celebrated. Your ego can be celebrated in silence and in peace, then that's your gratitude. It depends on where the ego essence is coming from. If it's coming from a domination, almost like a S&M mentality, then it's coming from still a reptilian place. Even if you think that you're seeing good come out of it, it's still coming from a place of corruption and of wanting to control and of wanting to be on top. And everybody, if that's the case, then everybody should be on top in their own little ciphers and allow that to take place. But to have almost like a communist, domination, all for one or one for all, that's unnecessary, Yeah, but again, it's necessary for those people that want to participate in that. And there's nothing wrong for people wanting to participate in that. Again, you'll never hear Aseer the Dugateers come out and say you shouldn't listen to this person or do that or whatever. All you'll hear me say is what the people are giving back to me. And what the people are giving back to me is that, and what I see happening in current events, and what I see is people being exploited at one point or the other by people who's not supposed to be exploiting them. So am I the bad one for saying that this is happening, or are the people that's exploiting people and doing things like that going to stand up for themselves and say, no, I'm not going to let you exploit me, and I'm going to stop that? Because one thing about the enemy is that they have created a system within their own self. Even the network that comes up with the excuses for all of the shootings and stuff or whatever that we see in movies like Wag the Dog and all of that. These are on the ground, what they call shovel-ready projects, meaning projects that are really coming out to do that. But the subtlety of the evil is so good that they use the very things that you love as a means to send you the message of their dominance. So, case in point, I'm watching Bay once on the UN, and she's doing this song called I Was Here. And all I'm looking at is how the people are loving the song and how captive the song is, because she's doing it in front of the IMAX theater, and it's surround, so it's like she's in the middle of all of this, death. I'm seeing, killing and starvation and blowing up of black people. And I'm listening to the song, and I'm hearing, I was here, 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 and
who was there? Who was that? That was Lucifer.
What I'm right, and she's in this all-white thing, and then at the end of it, the UN symbol comes in the middle of her head, like on some Halo Steve, that again accents the whole occult ritual of what I'm seeing, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is basically like a nocturne about the end, you know what I mean, of all of the people that they've killed or whatever up until this time. Whether she realizes that or not, whether she realizes that she's a pawn of that or not, is her own or host energy for that, you know what I mean, is her own demon that she is enslaved to or not. All we can do is assess by the action of what it is doing or what this idea is doing to original people in terms of these archetypes that are ushered to us like that, right? By using the term I was here in the past tense, that's basically saying that we're gone. And again, the black people is looking at this and getting caught up and crying like she was Michael Jackson. But then right after that, I turn the channel, they got Michael Jackson doing Heal the World. But instead of him being in the UN at the mainstream level, this dude is there with all the damn children of all colors and races. Then he had the giant world get blown up behind him to symbolize the earth. Then he had the kids in this rafters create the images of the drawn children, black, brown, yellow, and white. It was very, very interesting just to see the level of how they are like trying to juxtapose it and throw it in your face. Like, see, she's just as good. She's just the same as him. She's singing the same type of song. She's got the same vibration in the song. No, he's going to Brazil doing songs like they don't really care about us. So I'm not getting into the controversy and all of that about who he was or whatever it is. I'm just talking about him as an archetype of, let's say, black success that dealt with a heavy occult aspect that was brought on by him being eulogized by his parents at birth by whatever deal that they made to get their family where they at. So with this August new moon, this is a good time for those corrections to be made in the pattern of all of us that will allow a smidgen of decency to remain amongst our everyday dealings with the people that we deal with every day. You know what I'm saying? And so many of the programs, like I said, that have already been instituted against the people have been, like I said, amplified due to this heightened level of scrutiny as we approach the middle or the end of the second month of Jason. So this creates, for the S month, this is stuff that is there to manifest or ritualize aspects of specifically the serpentine realm, or specifically the SS type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they created, when I say they, I'm talking about these autonomous aspects of the United States government that are not in control of it and are now losing control of it, have allowed the domestic instance brought on by the acquisition of Petraeus as the new director of CIA. His whole thing was domestic operations and turning specific organizations against themselves. Basically, he follows what's called the Hoover model. So, as a Hooverist, he is specifically fostering within elements of those sleepers or whoever was put into the community to move people's thinking into a certain direction. Like, you notice how a couple of months ago, or let's say almost a year ago, all he was talking about was the Tea Party. Now you don't really hear about that really at all. You kind of like hear that more about, like, you know, they're not really making no noise like that because they have been integrated into American mainstream. So the potency of what they are has already been taken away from them by the integration of them into the GOP, which stands for the Grand Old Party, which is the so-called Republican Party, a mirror impersonation of the true so-called Republican Party of the so-called United States of America and General Congress Assembled. So this fluid relationship is now being put to the test based upon the rising of consciousness between original people amongst themselves. And because the real numbers of how we're doing have been kept from us for the past 50 years due to the Housing Act of 1974, they have consistently allowed the seedier elements of our community to be glorified, you know what I'm saying, while the traditional elements of the community are just seen as almost like cogs in it, or almost like victims waiting to be picked off, you know what I'm saying? So again, the drug dealer will always have the affinity in the black community because he represented the part of the community that just totally did him at the expense of everybody else. And in an American cowboy culture, that is seen as something very, it's a sign of virility, you know what I mean? It's like that Charlton Heston, like, you know, Bonanza type, you know what I mean? Like, this is us, like, we just taking it all, you know? And, thank you. And the consistent relationship that has now downplayed to us, our cowboy movies were things like New Jack City, Menace to Society. You know what I'm saying? These are the cowboy movies of our era that basically shaped how we even dealt with each other in the hood. You know how it was after Menace to Society came out. You had a bunch of niggas acting like they was old dog. It's almost like it got amplified because that aspect of the community had never fully been shown to the real world like that. Now that same image is being used against those same men based upon homosexuality being used as a military application. It's almost like a word that you just throw at people when you want to, you know, when you want to make other people look at them funny, based upon, again, not anything they're saying or doing, more so than about physical appearance. So again, when I talk about physical appearance being, same one, what do you just watch how you if you're about to go to bed? That's it. You go with the breakfast, so watch the thing because it's bedtime. Just do what I ask you. So this has become what it is. You know what I mean? It's become a consistent reality amongst us that we have to start to. Oh, we're used to it because you're going to bed. Come on, go in the room. When I get off the phone, it's time to go to bed. So, like I said, this is what it means to, again, be conscious, but then also knowing that this consciousness that you understand as yourself is growing. Let's say you reach the level of consciousness where you become light and you traveling as far as you can. What is propelling you? Like, even if you could fly right now, what is the mechanism in your brain that would allow you to propel yourself forward, and then not only propel yourself forward at a certain altitude, but then maintain that altitude and propel yourself faster? It would have to be your will. It would have to be your will. It would have to be the thing that is unseen that is driving who and what you are. Yet, in understanding how that will corresponds to yourself, there are elements that seek to disunify it and turn it in on itself. So you got to know what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. You know what I mean? And both have to be equally as defined. So that way you don't play yourself and other people don't try to come and play you and try to get you in compromising positions by acting like they cool or acting like they want to work, do certain things.
We didn't have internet. We didn't have internet when we got back. The other night we didn't have internet when we got back. And, you know, it takes a couple of days to get the money up, of course, and then get somebody to come out and sing it. And my neighbor was like, damn, you still don't have TV? You've been here for a long. I said, it's only been like 6 days. I said, you know, it took a minute. You got to pay a pass-through amount, all this. She's like, girl, you just need to come to the strip club with me one night. You'll make $600 in one night easy. I said, you make $600 in a night? She's like, yeah, on a slow night, like $600. She's like, oh, a good night, I could walk away with at least 2 G's. She said, my best night, I made like $3,200. And then it hit me. I was like, this is why these women do this shit. It's for the money, yo. She told me that shit, and my mind went right to seeing myself on a pole and crying. And I was like, I said, hell no, girl. I said, I can't even fathom. And it's not because I can't do it. I can't do it in front of strangers like that and there and who. And, you know, you try not to make this girl feel bad about her job. So you're like, nah, like I have the utmost. It's just like I could never do that. I could never do that. But the money, that's how much money you make? Oh, my God. Now I see why you're telling me you can't get out.
Right.
It's the money is the devil. It keeps you compromised.
Well, it's the ritual. I'm doing it now. It's the ritual that keeps everybody moving because, unfortunately, as much as we would not like to do things with it at this point, until we get all to the point where we are all working with our own trusts and, you know, noble houses and stuff like that, which is what we're moving to, people are forced to deal with what they got. And most people are not willing to come together to the point of actually seeing something prosper like that because everybody got their own agenda for it. And we need to be real that that's one of the main things that's holding up the progress of the so-called black unity. And while we're messing with all of that, we're getting picked off one by one, 46 times in some instances. You know what I'm saying? You don't have enough fingers or toes or eyelashes right now to count how many black men and women have been murdered by these people. Specifically them. Then we're not even adding all of the brown brothers and sisters and you know what I'm saying? And for days. And this is what I mean. So in this new moon of Leo, definitely look to the aspects of your life that could do better, make them better. Understand that indifference is a natural part of adult. Know that indifference is a natural right of adulthood, and that there's nothing wrong with not participating in things that other people tell you are more important than what you feel is more important for yourself and your family. Don't let anybody mind control you or flip you in the preservation of one's peace of mind, because you're not just dealing with people and themselves. Remember, you're dealing with people and their soul's journey and what that soul's journey has occurred and accumulated up to the point they done met you. And some of these people that done met you by this point have been so weighed down by so many internal and external entities hooked onto themselves, thought forms, bloodlines, all types of stuff. You don't even know. So it becomes something that is more unreliable when it comes to your perception of what's immediately in front of you. Just because this person's saying it, all of that, you got to do the knowledge. Yet, this is the righteous and the conscious aspect. You can't be so, again, judgmental that you then start to feel like you better than or these people are lower than. That type of stuff becomes your downfall, because now you have sunk a level to a level where now these people can converse with you on some type of thing. The fact that you can raise your vibration to the point where certain energies just don't even be around you, that's really the goal. That's what allows you to get things done. That's what allows you to stay ahead of the curve and not get caught up. Yeah, Tupac from jail said, look, don't have nobody with you. Do it all yourself in the beginning. Get to the point where you start coming to you for deals, and then you just say what's going to happen.
You help other people out.
And then you help other people
the way you know you're supposed to.
The way you know you're supposed to.
So you're not under anybody. He said, that's what I'm talking about. He said, yo, if I could do it again, I would have done everything by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, you know.
Because working with...
I wish that I could have worked with other people, but because it would have happened quicker. You know, there would have been quicker success. But quick rise, quick fall. You know, you got to think of how it's popping up on the backs and the jump and the joints of the blood, or am I climbing up on hard work, sweat, you know, tears, smiles, joy, little celebration.
Substance, real things that people can do the knowledge to. You know what I mean?
And so all those creating great stuff to extend knowledge.
Keep doing it.
Please continue to do it.
Bang on this devil however you can.
And we've been getting some great emails on some wonderful history and information.
Indeed.
So shout out to everybody, you know, all of our families and externally.
Indeed.
This has been good. You guys we're really on some next level ish.
Indeed.
It's letting me know how much I have to make time to read more than like 20 minutes a day with the child. It's not easy, but thank you guys for helping.
Indeed. It's become a real staple in what's going on. So for those people that don't know, you can holler at us at houseofl@hotmail.com. We have a class coming up this Wednesday at 9 o'clock. It's going to be an excellent joint. We're going to expound on some of the topics we talked about tonight more further. And email me at houseofl@hotmail.com. You could also check out the book. We have it on Kindle. That's going to be up in a minute. And as well as tomorrow, I think it'll be up. Just check www.darksco418.com. That's www.darksco418.com for the hardcover joint to be sent to you, as well as the e-book. If you want posters and stuff, that stuff is coming soon and being put onto the website as well. Some of the future events and stuff is going to be posted as well, so please check in on us and make sure it's cool. Also check out for more literary work as well as lecture-based stuff. You can check out www.aseertheducateers.com as well as www.cookingmorewithless.com. So again, thank you guys, the lovers and the haters, you know what I'm saying, the hustlers and the strugglers. Thank you all for participating in the dialogue tonight. There's a lot of people calling in, but I really didn't get a chance like we wanted to, because I wanted to kind of just show a lot of the duality that exists within our perception of ourselves and how we can all find ways to really be honest with it. You know what I mean? So it's really good for all of you in your own lives to, again, weed them out. Don't be afraid to call them out, as well as be who you want to be, regardless to who or what anybody say, even if it conflicts with what other people in the conscious community say. Sometimes you got to be as conscious as you can be in the moment, and watch these baller blockers and watch these people that's not there for you. I'm talking about people in your family, the government, especially the police, as well as everybody else. Yet we are in the second month of Jason, going into the third. We almost in, and this is the best time for us to get where we need to go. So we need to say peace.